So one of my buddies wanted to know how I make my steaks, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to share with all of you. I know something that I post pretty much daily because I eat a steak every day. So we're gonna go through that process. So first things first, your meat selection is critical here. We'll get into that, but I usually will freeze my steaks. I'll buy like 5 or 6 of them at a time from either a butcher shop that I know sells prime meat, or from somewhere like Sprouts, Whole Foods, Fresh Market. They usually have pretty good prime selections. But the key there is prime selections. I usually go with a New York strip or a ribeye. They're frozen, doesn't matter. Throw them in the fridge the night before so that they can start slowly thawing out, because you want them to retain all that myoglobin, all that moisture that they have in there that's going to give them all that flavor. So for the actual cut of the meat, I've already thrown some salt on here, but this is a prime ribeye. You can see it's got that really good marbling there, and this is a nice thick cut. This is about 1.5 inches thick. It weighs like 1.2 pounds. But when you bring your meat out of that refrigerator, let it sit for about an hour or two. You want it to come up to room temperature. You want it to be in that 60-degree zone. That way it's going to allow that meat to cook thoroughly and consistently all the way through. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm taking some salt, grinding some salt on there, and you want to be very generous with your salt. And then once you get that salt on there, again, you want to be generous. I already have some on here. You want to hand rub it in, massage that salt in. And what you'll see when your steak starts to rise in temperature is that some of that fat will start to render on the surface. You'll start to see a little bit of fat start to whip up on the surface there. And that's what you want. That means that your steak is getting warm enough all the way through that that it's going to cook really good, and you're going to get a nice crust on there. We're going to get into the crust next. Now, after you salt it, what we're going to do is called scoring. You want to take a knife like this one with a straight edge. You don't want, and a steak knife. You don't want any serrations on there. And what we're going to do is just drag our blade across like that at 1/4 inch intervals, where almost the pressure of the knife is creating just a little bit of a cut in there. Not super deep. You don't want to slice it all wide open. You just go all the way down the steak, and it's called scoring. And I like to cross hatch it. So this is the cheat code right here, is this stuff. This is A5 Wagyu beef tallow. This is the cheat code. If you cook even 90% lean ground beef with this stuff, it's going to taste like Wagyu beef. It's amazing. And the cheat is, once you have it scored and salted, just spray a little Wagyu tallow on there. And then when you throw it on the grill, you're going to cook, not with butter, but with that tallow. And it's going to give it that A5 Wagyu beef flavor, in addition to the already quality prime meat. Now, when it actually comes time to put the meat on the grill, I like to use a Blackstone. You can also use a cast iron skillet. I already got some tallow on there. It's pretty well seasoned. But yeah, you can take our meat, and I like to get it up to about 300 degrees here on the grill. Very low setting. And then here's another hack for you. Take a tinfoil pan like this, just throw that thing over top, and what that's going to do is it's going to help insulate it, and it's going to give you a little bit of a reverse sear. It's going to use less energy to actually cook the steak, and it's going to be more thorough and consistent all the way through. So when it comes to measuring and tracking the meat, I like to use my watch. It's not just a desk diver. The dive bezel actually has a purpose here, and I time it for about 5 minutes, track it all the way around. If you go under time, right, if you keep it on there for about 4 minutes 50 seconds or so on and so forth, that's better than overcooking it, right? We want to be controlled here. So after about 5 minutes, we're going to flip it again, keeping it under that tin pan, and then keep on going. And then once we get there, after it's been on both sides for about 5 minutes, I like to bring out a little digital thermometer just to check that temperature at the thickest parts of the steak. Once I get a consistent internal temperature, then it'll dictate how much longer I keep it on there, or flipping or anything like that. All right, so as you can see, it's been on for about 5 minutes. All this down here, towel, it's gonna help it crisp up, keep that nice crust on there. And we'll just throw this bad Larry back on there and leave it for another 5 minutes. Old boy's been on there for about 10 minutes now, so we're gonna flip him back over. This is where our thermometer comes in. So for me, I like a medium rare. So we want to see that steak at about 130 to 135 degrees. So that internal temperature, you can see still at 84. It's a big fat steak, so 98, 99. So at this point, we're going to give it about 2 minutes on each side, flip until we get that internal temperature that we like. So you can really start to see that scoring bringing out that really nice crust. What it does is it creates more surface area on the edge of the steak on the outside for it to crisp up and create that crust with, which is really good. So we flipped it twice now. We're gonna flip it one more time here. Now we're gonna go for a temperature. And we wanna be somewhere around 129 to 135 degrees. So about 125 there, 137, it's a little bit thinner area, 135 there. So we'll give it probably about 2 more minutes on this side, and that should bring it up to temp. So here's our steak. Internal temp is at 130 at the thickest part and about 135 to 137 at a little bit of the thinner parts. Now this is a key piece that most people do not take account for, is letting this steak rest. I usually let it rest for 7 minutes. It's kind of a median number as to the cook time, and I kind of just like the number. But I'm gonna let it rest here for 7 minutes, and then we're gonna cut into it. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow all that myoglobin, all that juice, and all that flavor to get locked inside of that good sear, this nice crust that we have on top. So here's the finished product, and honestly, it came out absolutely perfect. Now, a couple of keys as to how you can tell how perfect it came out. One is the consistency of that color all the way through. If your meat's too cold or if your grill is too hot, you're gonna have a gray ring around the edge there. You don't want that. You wanna see that pink all the way through, all the way through, all the way through. We got a beautiful medium rare there, right at about 130 degrees, so this is perfect. If you wanna cook a steak like this, hit me up and or watch this story. I don't know, but you ain't eating this one. Another thing, a lot of people don't like the fat and the trimming on their steaks. That just means that you're cooking them wrong. When you cook them right, you get them at the right temperature, they're gonna get crispy and they're gonna be amazing. It's gonna be like eating beef tallow French fries. So fat's good for you. You can't eat enough good fat like that on a steak. Now, if you watched all that and you're wondering what cut of beef to get, first, prime. Now there's 2 ways you could go. You could go with a ribeye. A ribeye is going to be fattier. It's going to have better flavor. It's going to be a little bit more rich. So keep that in mind. When you have a really fatty, rich ribeye steak, it's going to fill you up pretty fast. So a pound of beef is quite a bit. The other way you could go is a New York strip. New York strip is delicious. It's a little bit more lean and it has a little bit more structure to it. So if you were to use it for something like a charcuterie board, something like that, it's going to be a little bit better option there. Now, the way I usually top off my steaks, I slice them up just the way you saw. I usually add a little bit more salt, maybe some pepper, depending how I'm feeling. But I'm a guy who I enjoy the taste of the meat. I want to taste the flavor that's going on there. I do, however, have a very, very soft spot for chimichurri. If I add anything to my steak, it's going to be a good chimichurri. You don't add too much, but that small addition is going to be a game changer if you've never experienced it before.